Why?
because it's an electric like to call the Middleville Village Council Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Rhonda, may I have roll call, please?
Mike Kramer,
Here.
Steve Baldry,
Here.
Robert Bishop, Richard Hamilton,
Here.
Mackenzie Peters,
Here.
Kevin Smith,
In spirit, here.
Ann Williams.
Here. I'll make a motion to excuse trustees Bishop, and that's it, right?
Support.
We have a motion with support to excuse trustee Bishop. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone should have a copy of this super short agenda in front of them.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support. We have a motion with support to approve the agenda as printed. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carries. Public comment? No, everybody's on the agenda already.
Nope.
Not everybody?
Hmm.
Oh, help yourself.
Hopefully this thing's on, otherwise I'll talk loud. Perfect. Blake Myers, and that's Meyers. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Blake Myers. I'm an operations intern at Bradford White. I'm here to get a request, I suppose, to use golf carts on the road for an event that Bradford White is hosting on August 8th. So this event is for their car show, and we're using the church as overflow parking for salaried employees. So in order to get those employees to and from the facility, we would be requesting to use golf carts. And the only time that these golf carts would be on the road would be in the morning, like around 7-ish a.m. till whenever they're done shuttling employees. And then in the afternoon around 3:30 to 4. And the only people being able to use these golf carts are going to be like higher management roles or people who have been approved. Believe that is it. We'll probably be using, if we can, around 2 to 3 golf carts just to shuttle. So I do have an image of the route. I don't know if I can pass that around.
I
Do
think
you
it
guys would
was,
prefer that? So that helps.
Thought we were.
we saw a preliminary image
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, but I can pass this. Yes, I can also pass this out. This is just kind of like a PowerPoint summary with the image as well. I can also give. And if anyone else would like a copy of that, I have more.
All set. So I think it was included in a packet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We
is
did
that
see
it?
No,
Yeah.
so I emailed it out to you all
Oh.
ahead of
Oh,
time, and I suggested that Blake come and make a semi-formal, informal request during public comment, and then if there was consensus to process it, then we could process it administratively or get a formal request to you. So just wanted to get your thoughts first.
Would this be covered under a special, an event permit?
Yeah, right.
So they're hosting this on their site. So this is not an event permit because we're not using village property. This is just a request to use the streets to commute the displaced parking
Yeah.
to and from the facility.
I know in the past when we've done hay rides, but I don't know if that would be the same caliber of, request, hay ride to golf carts, and we use special event permit for that, an event permit. for
Yeah.
that.
We could do something similar. We have the ordinance for fall and spring color tour. So we could do a similar, if you were interested in that, we could get that going and get that in front of you for approval. So if it's not
I think you could do that administratively and just give them the same approval as the fall color tour.
Yeah.
Because they're off all the major streets, which is my only concern. So
Yep.
I don't have a problem.
Yep, you would have to approve that, but we can get that in front of you, so.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to process this request administratively. Or
Do we need a motion?
We'll get the application
They'll
in front of you.
they'll take care of it and bring it back to us.
Yep.
and then you can handle it administratively.
Yep.
Sounds good.
I think we just need consensus. If you'd like to rescind your motion, we'll move on.
Or I can rescind my motion and we can just all agree.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. We'll
Yeah, that
handle
was
it.
my only concern, was just staying off the major streets, which you've already taken care of. So should be
Yep.
all set.
I think this needs to go to Rhonda since it's been passed around.
All right. Thanks, Blake.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I know you don't have enough paper.
Any other public comment? All right, we are moving on to Mr. Mears. Welcome, Brandon.
Hello. Apologize for missing last month. I know I got switched to Wednesday and I had planned on making it and I unfortunately was not able to. Lots going on as usual here. I'll start with Dearborn under construction, been under construction for a bit. They're to the point of the big culvert under the beautiful clear stream that runs under that road. And so there'll be some time with that. Once they set that, they have to pour the head walls. There's 7-day cure time and all that before they can start backfilling and all that. They've got 2 sides to do on that, but they are otherwise done with utilities and all of that in that road, and they're building the road. Many of you may have seen that. We did add under drain to it to keep that road in a better condition long-term, keep the water out from under it. High Street, we had the pre-con yesterday, so that project will be starting very soon. So that will be a minor inconvenience, I'm sure, to some people, but I take it people will start finding their way around. There's some side street and some options for that. So that will probably take the balance, most of the summer. We don't want them going too far into the fall because of the type of weather we get and the conditions. So we want it paved, in October. So that will be the goal, I'm sure.
They're planning on starting to put equipment out end of June and then probably start construction end of June, beginning of July. That's what they're looking at there. So.
And then the High Street retaining wall, I know we've pretty much gone through the design of that, so that's getting very close to being ready to go out. At the wastewater treatment plant, there's still just a few minor closeout items to do. I believe the final payment has been made.
Yep.
So I was just up with George. The punch list items have been taken care of. We have an O&M manual to update, which we mostly have completed. As-built mostly have completed, so we'll get that and we'll close that out. So, and there's a balance left on the engineering, which we will not bill. That can go back to whatever funds are needed there. The Paul Henry Bridge, NEHA is working on that proposal. I know we were asked just to put a proposal together, waiting on some information from Contact just to get updated pricing information from them. I know that's kind of in the bid, but we want to see what they're going to include in their package for design, or if there'll be a charge for that, so we can incorporate that into our price to you. So do that as well. Alec talked to me about an asbestos cement water main coming down from the old ground storage tank, about getting that replaced. There isn't anything unsafe. People might freak out when they hear asbestos cement, but it was a commonly used material, and it's very stable. It's not like little fibers are getting into the water or anything like that. It doesn't have like the airborne type of problem with asbestos that people think of, but it's a little bit undersized. So we're going to look at replacing that with probably a cement line ductile iron pipe and getting it the proper size for the amount of water that we anticipate moving through that line in the future as the village continues to grow. Arlington Road, there's a center line description needed for a change in the status of that road I'm sure it's for funding major minor street. So we can handle that. And then 3rd Street, I don't have an update for sure. I know there was some trouble with the road back to the school. That was kind of in particular. So if there's any concerns or any problems, we have not closed that project out. So, we'll make sure that everything is to the villages and to the school's satisfaction before we do that.
Yep, we're working closely with Katie and with the contractors over there, and the residents over there, make sure everything's good there. So.
So Dwayne has been the inspector on the Dearborn Street. Dwayne will be the primary inspector on High Street. He can't be 2 places at once, so we'll deploy another engineering tech to help when needed. And I think, the Dearborn seems to be going very well, and we anticipate that High Street will go well. Dwayne really helps keep the projects on track.
Better knock on some wood.
I did say hope, right? I did say hope. So it's always our hope, but it's exciting to have these great projects. And yeah, really excited about that. Any questions or anything else that comes to mind?
I don't think so. No.
Should be all set. Anybody else? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next, we have Dan with our financial audit presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan Veldhuizen. For those of you I haven't met, I've been working with the village since the late 90s. I was trying to figure out the year that I started. Probably 98 was the year, so quite a long time. Worked with a lot of different people here, but really think you have a good staff in place. Enjoy working with Craig. When we did the audit this year, the main thing I can think about is Glorimar taking over as finance director. So she asked very few questions during the year. We were a little anxious about how things might have gone, but I think she did an excellent job. A lot of that has to do with the fact that you work with two CPA firms, one as your accountant, Bredeveld Hefner, and us as the auditor. So she can ask either firm for help. And I think she got really close with one of the CPAs there who did a nice job with her. So it's unfortunate that she left and took another job. So I think it'll be important to find somebody else at that firm to help Glorimar. So
Yep.
It's been a great thing for the village to work with two CPA firms. So I just want to spend a few minutes going over the financial statements. Do you have those available to you? If
They're
not,
In the
that,
packet.
Yeah, it's
If
not good.
you tell me where to scroll to.
you know, I don't know that we even need to get into that unless you really want to get into the specifics. That's why I like to come to the committee of the whole meetings. If you want to do that, we can definitely do that much better than a 5-minute presentation in a public meeting. So I will limit it to just a few comments about the auditor communications and your financial condition. If you had a chance to read through that, there are two communications. One is the independent auditor's report. That's what you hired us to do, to give an opinion on the financial statements. And we gave an unmodified opinion. That's known as a clean opinion. It's always important to me that you know that everything wasn't perfect when we came here. Even though you have assistance from another CPA firm, we did make a few adjustments, and we point that out in the other communication. But most of them are expected. They have to do with your capital assets, like capitalizing fixed assets and recording depreciation. There were a couple of things related to accounts payable that we had to record, but that's relatively very few adjustments or corrections compared to other municipalities that I work with. So that's terrific. Another thing in the auditor's report that's always important to me to point out is the responsibilities of management. Even though that we prepare this booklet for you, it's ultimately management's responsibility to do that. Just briefly on that separate letter, I already talked about some of the adjustments that we make. One of the key things there is now we have to put in writing any problems that we see in internal control. So it's okay that we prepare the financial statements for you, and it's very, I would say, expected for us to make some adjustments. I think it's an unfair expectation for a smaller government in West Michigan to hand this document to us perfectly. And that is what the expectation is these days. So when we call things material weaknesses and significant deficiencies, it seems like an unfair thing to do, but that's a very normal comment. If you looked at all 2,000 of the financial statements in the state, you would see that a lot. Just a few comments about your financial condition. As I mentioned, I started working with the village in the late 90s, so I'm pretty sure that you have a better financial condition than in any time that I've worked here. So you have about 1.7 million in fund balance in your general fund. I always compare that to your current year expenditures. It's 75% of the current year expenditures. Most cities and villages have 10 to 20%. So there's nothing wrong with having a fund balance that high. And many of the governments I work with shoot for something like 50%. 25 to 50% is a healthy fund balance, I would say. And you're above that. You also have $1.9 million in your two street funds, which is excellent. It's very rare to see that. So you have plenty of money available for those projects. And as of December 31 anyway, maybe you've spent some of this money, you had $238,000 available with the ARPA funds. It's Craig and I talked about this, but it's essential that you spend that this year. It has to be obligated by December 31 of this year, or it has to be returned to the federal government. So you don't want that to happen.
Yep, and we've already done that.
And you've already spent.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
We already obligated it.
Obligated.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
She's obligated.
We're in the process of spending it. We spent a good chunk with Jake, actually, but anyway.
Okay, all right. I'm an accountant, so I'm more comfortable with numbers, not so much English. They've changed the definition of obligation about 3 times since ARPA came out, so I'm not even sure what it is anymore.
Right.
So the governmental funds are very healthy. Your proprietary funds, your sewer, water, and internal service funds, you have all 3 of those funds had an increase in the equity. Sewer fund has about 1.8 million in equity. Water fund is 400,000, so it's a little bit less, but I know that you monitor your rates and look at those closely. Another thing that's always of interest is your defined benefit pension plan. Just a second here to look at the specifics. It's always hard because somebody else manages that money for you.
Is that MERS?
This is MERS.
Okay.
So unfortunately, in 2022, which is the most recent year we have, which we helped you record the transactions, they actually lost money. So everybody in the state is seeing this. I still find it hard to think that they lost money with the types of investments they have, but it caused the funded percentage to go from 83% to 71%. The goal of MERS is always at least 80%. There's nothing wrong with you having 71%. And probably by now already, with the interest earning or investment earnings you've had in 2023, you could very well be up to 80%. It'll be interesting to see that actuarial report. But unfortunately, this year it went down. You had such a positive trend. And in addition, you made another $250,000
We did.
contribution.
Which-
So
Which did absolutely nothing for us.
Well, it hasn't been recorded yet. They haven't come out with our updated report yet until, that'll be included in that, so.
next year when I'm here, I'm guessing that additional contribution and hopefully positive investment income will
Yeah.
be back around the 80%.
You mentioned the the most recent report you have is from 22, which would have reflected from 21. Is that accurate? Like,
Actually, it'd be the calendar year 22.
would it include the 22 then?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I mean, we've stocks lost a lot of money in 20 and 21, so I think that would be pretty normal. I think just for point of discussion, I don't think that we're behind by any stretch of the imagination. We are behind in funding with the funds. I think we added another $250,000 to that
Yes.
simply because we are paying that dividend early rather than later. So I think that is going to certainly reflect positively here. That's something I follow with much interest, just simply because I think we kick the can somewhat. We have a lot of money on the books, but we also kick the can on a few items. And this is one of those that I think we've done that. In your opinion, from a trending perspective, what you see is, are we adequately funding it? Even though we did add, I mean, what are your opinions on that?
I'm not an actuary, so I couldn't tell you exactly how I would evaluate your pension plan, but as an auditor, we take the actuary's information and put it in your financial statement.
To make
So-
sure that it balances. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well,
You don't
but-
have to comment any further.
Well, it's interesting to me that probably 10, 15 years ago, an actuary would tell you if you're 50% funded, you're probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
These are costs that you're going to pay, some in the near future, some 30, 40 years from now. So you don't really need to be 80% funded. But after some problems in the commercial environment where money was taken out of plans and things like that, there's no requirement to have 100% funding. It's just kind of a MERS goal for you. And you were at 83% last year, which is probably higher than a lot of cities I work with. I can only think of one that's fully funded. So the 70 to 80% range is very normal. And like I said, I think next year at this time, you'll be back at 80%.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, we should have the updated report by the end of the month or maybe early July, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What's community is fully funded? You said you know who won.
It happens to be City of Village of Douglas. So. But they've made quite an effort to do additional contributions like you have. And they wanted it fully funded, so.
Somewhat comparable to this.
Similar size, yeah.
Pretty conservative.
City of the Village of Douglas.
The city of the village.
Yeah.
That's always a hard one too.
Yeah.
Had to keep the village feel, but the city name.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Like I said, the controls and things like that, and Glorimar's work was very good and better than expected. The city's financial position is excellent. I'm sorry, the villages. No, I'm confused.
Village of the Village of
The village
Middleville.
There you go.
Of the township.
Right.
Anybody else
Thank you
have
very much for your time.
Yeah,
Questions?
thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, we will move on to Dave and Jake.
Thank you for having us to report. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you again. You asked us to review your IT infrastructure and what was going on with it. We did that, presented those things to you, and then you asked us to make some changes. I'm proud to say that that process went well. Craig was a huge piece of that. We've definitely improved security from an encryption, email security, firewalls, many other pieces as well. Productivity, there were even a few things there, like a fax solution, getting away from a traditional fax is nice, or integrating the sites, bringing wireless standardization across the board, all those types of things. So I wrote Craig a quick email that I don't know if he passed around, but I was going to summarize that and just say that I'm pleased to inform that we've successfully completed the network security upgrade project. Delighted to report that we've not only met the exceeded goals, but exceeded them in several ways. Thanks for the hard work and dedication that both your team has put in working together in a partnership. We were able to deliver exceptional results while staying under budget, which we're pretty excited about for you. Wanted to express my gratitude. I went into that a little bit more, and then express that we've transferred about over $4,000 back to you for what that was as a part of our commitment to maximizing the value that we've brought you and wisely stewarding what you have entrusted to us. And so we really appreciate it. We thank you for the opportunity to work. We look forward to continuing to partner with you to maintain these things, and really enjoyed working with the team. It's been wonderful. So that's my report.
Great. How much under budget across the board? I've asked Craig a couple of times for a report to show line item budget and then line item actual spend. Do you have that?
Related to what you had approved.
So we approved a budget, like a not to exceed, or this would be on the, you had given us like a high end budget estimate. And then along the way, are you providing a report on what that budget or not to exceed budget versus what you've actually spent?
It was the proposal. So proposal versus actual.
So
I would think Craig would have that.
I've got the overall. I think I can work with you and get a line item detail on that. But for overall, they were 4,000 under the overall budget. But I can get line item. Or I can-
Overall,
Yes.
so you spent nearly, so the $250,000 that we allocated or close to, you've spent all but $4,000 of that. Is that?
Yeah,
where we
there
were
were
at.
several products that were set up as recurring items. So that has not all been spent. Those are billed monthly over time. But the pieces of the upfront project and all that, as far as accomplishing, implementing, buying anything that, there were certain things with a 5-year subscription that is.
Yeah,
all
I'm just
completed.
talking about like, because there was a large capital expenditure, plus there was some time and material
Yes.
project oriented things, like, for instance, when you replace the server rack in the room or whatever, that there was like X amount of dollars to allocate towards that. And then what was on the budget
X amount of dollars versus what it actually cost us to get that done. Like that's a pretty interesting, that would be an interesting report to see if we could get that. That would,
Yeah, I have the aggregate at the end is about $4,000 different. We put the project together as a whole, so a technician would come out and work on 5 different elements of that. So I don't have it broken down by every single element.
so we could get that at some point.
The total,
Yeah. The individual line item for what was budgeted versus what, I mean, you went through the whole process of categorically going through for a proposal. I'm just curious, categorically, could you show us how much each of those projects cost, and just for,
I could work on putting something together that would be at each item. Within our project, we had each one of those items element. Some we were over budget, some we were under, and the aggregate was about 4,000 under.
sure. So I get the aggregate part, but if we could get that line item, that would be awesome.
I will work on putting something together.
Great, thank you very much. Oh, and one more thing. In the overall project, one of the primary reasons why we didn't want the previous, there was a lot of reasons, but one of the primary reasons was that drove a lot of frustration was our inability to reset our own passwords. That still remains the case. So, I mean, you can literally change it on your own. I'm curious, and I got lectured about how secure, how secure things are, but then I have to give my password manually to a person who knows my password now and then inputs it into the system. Curious, when is it possible for us to reset our own password?
Yeah, so Craig and I talked about that. I'm sure, I know you're aware of that, and he did approve a few dollars. It's not a big, for a password self-service tool that we use, and we're in the process of rolling that out. I think that just got approved.
It was
Late
last
last
week. It was later than what it should have been because I missed an email from David. by about
Either way, it is approved, and so
Couple
it's in the
weeks.
process now. It is not completed. I don't think we've quite, I think we're about to start.
Okay. And that's not just a checkbox in online Outlook where you can allow that process, or do you use a different piece of software for that?
Yeah, we use a product called QuickPass that allows for self-service password management. It adds some security on the administrative password side of workstations as well that we really like.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, David.
Guess
Thank you.
Jake wants to add.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jake Consaitis. I'm also with K Group Companies. I separately presented on a physical security initiative that you guys approved, and I am really excited to tell you guys we are at the finish line. I have more of an interactive demo. You guys can feel free to cut me off at any point. But if Miss Rhonda, you don't mind pulling, oh, there's me.
So you were last on the agenda, so.
So I've got the rest of the
You got
night
it.
is what
You
you
own
were
it.
saying. Let's go.
You own it, Jake.
Okay, so high level summary. You guys now have throughout the village a fully integrated access control and security camera offering. And we're pretty excited about that. And so I believe that there's a limited number of users in it today, but between Craig and Alec, they're taking point, inviting more users, and there's no limit or restrictions on the number of users that you guys can have. And so from an access control perspective, that will primarily be personnel being granted access through mobile credentials. It does not cost you guys any money to invite your own personnel into the access control system and equip them with mobile access. If you so choose, you can give them the ability to invite others in to secure spaces through guest passes that are just texted to them and available to them for a limited window that's set up at the time of the guest pass. So that's pretty slick. That access control is throughout Village Hall here, DPW, and the Waste Treatment Building. That's pretty exciting. There's also video throughout those spaces as well as the park across the street here. And so if you don't mind grabbing the map tab at the top, what we are signed into here is the Aware portal. This is the cloud portal where your video resides. You guys have encrypted SD cards in each of your cameras where the video is stored. And then you optionally, it's not happening today, but optionally through rules that you or we can construct, can back it up to the cloud if you so choose. We have maps here in Aware showing a number of different things. Again, feel free to cut me off because I can go all night. What we're looking at here, this EKG looking line shows activity, particularly people or vehicle activity, and the different colors differentiate the types of activity profiles that are being logged. And so these map views are convenient ways not only to see your video and interact with your video, you can do so by highlighting or selecting different cameras and videos will pop up. Same thing with access control, but you can actually see in real time a display of vehicles passing in front of the video or people. If people are walking in front of the video, down in the lower right-hand corner, you have a lot of different overlay and analytic options, which are pretty cool. Even things like heat mapping, so that if you had a specific time frame where you'd like to see where the majority of people congregate throughout the park, for example, that's available to you guys. If we scroll down the left-hand side, there are maps that are identical for the other areas around the village where you guys have video and access control as well. So that's pretty exciting. And then in the view tabs at the top, you have your various cameras. All of the cameras, all of the wireless backhauls that are supporting video in hard to reach places like the park are established, up and running. We are working to RMA a waste treatment camera that's on a light pole, and that will be replaced shortly. And that will be the final major milestone before we consider the project finished. But yeah, wonderful. Do you mind pulling up the memorial? So if you scroll to the top, it might be easiest to just pull that individual camera up. Yep, okay. Go ahead and either double click or just drag and drop that into one of the viewing panes.
You can actually drag the word into the.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, just drag and drop it into any one of those viewing panes. There you go. Yep, okay. And so in the upper right-hand corner, there's a couple of arrows going in separate directions. If you want to just throw that open, it will be easier for everyone to see. Up in the upper right-hand corner of that memorial viewing pane. Yeah, there you go. Wonderful. Yep, there it is. And so there's a whole bunch of bells and whistles that I'm hoping everyone is really excited about, particularly the search feature that is right next to that expansion window we just used. That is a really convenient way for you guys to very quickly say, there's a person or there's a vehicle. Show me that vehicle everywhere.
How far can you get down to the object?
How far can you get down to the object?
Can you see a person? Can you zoom in on the memorial?
You can digitally enhance or through the video zoom into the memorial. That is true. Yeah. That is something that would be, the digital enhancement is something anyone with access to the video could do, but then the actual ability to manipulate where the video is looking is going to be restricted based on permissions. But in addition to this, which is a camera dedicated to this purpose with a telescoping lens on it, there are several other cameras in the area that capture more of an overview. And the idea is that you guys can really gain a complete picture of activity approaching, interacting with the memorial, and walking away from it.
That's an exceptional zoom on there.
Yes.
That's really good.
That was my
What-
next
how much-
question was, do
How
we have
much
another angle?
storage? How much storage? How far back do we go?
So,
You said that there's one on the camera, then there's the option to upload that.
yep, I'll answer that two ways. Each of your cameras has a 30-day cloud subscription, and that is stored in Wasabi, the back end of the Aware portal. That is something that you or we would build through a system rule that basically says, record my video. The reason for that is we want to be really intentional about not backing up that video during peak hours. On the SD card itself, though, you guys maintain video for as long as there's room to record video, and then it reaps the oldest. And so the easy answer is 30 plus. We could give you a definitive number once we realize that threshold, but in most instances, we just haven't realized that threshold yet.
This is exceptional.
Thank you.
Very exceptional. I mean, in the detail that you can see, I mean, you zoomed right in and you could read the words
Mhm.
on that. That's phenomenal.
So
Way
is
better than.
Is that picture right there, is that stationary, or can it
Can it pan?
It doesn't physically move. You do have the ability to zoom in and out, and you are actually moving a motorized lens, which is different from the digital enhancement that nearly all of the other cameras are going to support. I was actually super pleased with the bandshell field of view and the overall area available to you guys. I've done like 1,000 backhauls, so I had no doubt that it would work, but it's always cool to see HD video come across a wireless backhaul. The architecture for, nerds, frankly, the idea that you're not streaming anything across that until you want to be, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked for you guys.
This is great.
And we certainly appreciate the opportunity.
Above.
Spring Park?
No.
Sounds like a next objective though, right?
We'll have to wait for our next ARPA fund.
I have a question. So if someone vandalized the memorial a week ago, we'd be able to go and see when it happened, and we'd be able to zoom in then and recognize hopefully the individuals? Or are we,
Potentially.
or does that 7-day-old view stay as it is?
Sounds like it's a 30-day, yeah.
That's a great question. I'll answer that in two ways. The first is the video you see is the video you record. And so what I mean by that is what we just tinkered around with is a motorized physical movement of the lens. And if we go play back the video from 5 minutes ago, we'll see us moving it. And so if that lens is here, that's what's recording. And if that lens is here, that's what's recording.
So the field of view, we would have to zoom in on if that's how we recorded it, we would have to digitally zoom in on that person. If we wanted exacting video, we would have to zoom in, and then that would, whatever the zoom is our
Like
field.
at 2 o'clock in the morning, something happened, wouldn't we be able to go back and?
That's
Can you automate the like when it zooms in, or like, can you say, okay, I want to go in 4 times at 2 a.m. or whatever, and then zoom it back out again? Can you automate the zoom?
Probably. That would be pretty easy to test. What certainly you guys can do is there's almost an unlimited number of rules that you guys can create based on anomalies or specific things. The age-old analytics are line crossing and different forms of rule-based detection. Those are all available to you. You have them. There's no licensing or anything like that you need to worry about. But each of these cameras is continuously, because it's selected, going through a learning period. And so, for example, if activity in the DPW building from 7 to 4 is common, but not in waste treatment, the cameras are going to handle activity in waste treatment at 7 o'clock in the morning differently than the DPW cameras. You can build out a tremendous number of rules that do things like send email alerts or other kind of proactive notifications. I always recommend that people do that slowly, because if you're not staying on top of, I don't actually care about that, I do care about that, they become kind of numbing long-term. But all of those things are available to you, and those rules don't require any kind of really complex logic or licensing, none of that. So there's a tremendous number of options for you guys to be automating proactive notifications based on someone attempting to badge into this door outside of their approved schedule, for example. Yep. And then, it's pretty uncommon, even for like a Bradford White over here, for them to have a dedicated operator monitoring video. There's only so much a human can process in front of them, and there's a lot going on across many cameras. And so those maps, I think, are a really convenient way to just quickly identify there's a person in the park and it's dark, maybe that shouldn't happen. Or maybe I watch that person to make sure they get to their car or whatever it is, as far as I know, you guys haven't committed to providing any kind of service to anyone with this stuff, but the hope is, particularly with the analytics and the heat mapping and the different rules that are just available to you guys, you can really flex this to find creative ways to realize a return as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's great. I do have one quick question, and it's not you, Jake. It's more towards David, but you were mentioning about the dedicated, service to monitoring that. Obviously, that's a big deal, but I do want to jump back real fast, and it doesn't have to be a long answer, but MDR in general. So you updated our perimeter. Is that being actively monitored with something like Arctic Wolf or something where you have a team or a third party watching for intrusions and being able to respond to that? Or do you have it internally? How do you work with that?
Yeah, the product is Sentinel-1
Oh, it's Sentinel-1. So are you
with
using,
the 24/7 SOC monitoring.
so they are doing the SOC monitoring them? Okay, perfect. That's awesome. That's where the real value is just being able to respond to immediate and actual threats. So that adding with our physical security, I'm going to publicly say it, and I know I give you guys a hard time to some degree, but you have done an exceptional job of just upgrading everything and getting us back into where I think we've needed to be for a very long time. It's something that, talk about kicking the can. I mean, this is everything that you've done has been exceptional, and you've done it with grace, and you've dealt with us individually. Just huge kudos to K Group and everyone involved with your organization. It's just, you guys are 5 stars for sure.
Thank you. We appreciate it. It's really exciting to me with the architecture that you guys have here. You guys talk about the park. If you decide I need one camera in a park, you can do that for very little additional investment because of the architecture that you're building.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited.
That's fantastic. Yeah, you guys have
What
done
a
great.
great segue into the next question.
Yes.
Do we have an opposing view on the memorial?
I'm actually the least helpful person here
Something coming from the band shell. Or the pavilion, either or.
I tend to think either the band shell or one of the restroom cameras would be the best place to start.
Oh, that's a good view.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
This is really phenomenal. I mean, this exceeds everything that I had thought this was going to be, for sure.
Can we pull up the restroom cameras?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So you can sort of see them coming and going a little bit there.
Doggone trees.
But I do like the multiple, the band shell is really a good shot.
That's a huge area there.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
Well, as we haven't had issues yet, I don't think it'll be a problem, but if it does, I mean, there's a flagpole right there. You can probably put a camera on at that point, right? Or something in that area if we needed an opposing view,
You guys have
because
so much wireless in that park now, there's almost nowhere you can extend.
well, let's hope we don't need it, but
Yeah.
just
I think
was
that-
curious because, someone doing something nefarious on that side could just duck down behind it if they knew where cameras were located, or just by nature of circumstance, if they're vandalizing one plaque, we can't see their face. I was wondering if we had an opposing view, but I mean, we're covered. We can see them come in. We can, at this point, we can see what vehicle they get in and out of or which direction they leave. So
Yeah. This is, I mean, downtown is, all of our assets are
Where's that at?
locked. That's a DPW garage.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I like to see my designs.
Bathroom. Well done.
That's nice. It's like person of interest.
Yes. Oh, my God.
And those things you see.
I'm blown away that we still have those bikes.
You guys will have some policies to work through, but you have everything you need to identify this person caused issue next time we pick them up.
Nice.
Well, and by your logic, we could set a time window of when we need to track motion in the park and when we
Right.
don't. And then we can probably program the camera to automatically zoom if we track motion.
Probably. I want to build the rule out before confirming it. But particularly as more people, as it continues to expand and more people buy in, you'll definitely want to consider throttling back the resolution at which you're allowing remote users or low priority users to stream the video, just so that you don't have 70 people pulling 4K simultaneously across the wireless. But it'll do it.
It'll do it.
And Sergeant Ware has access to all the cameras and everything too, so he's already got that.
He's really the only one that needs 4K access. The
Right.
rest of us don't care.
Right.
Yeah. This is phenomenal. Well done, gentlemen. It's good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions?
That's great. That's great.
All right. We will move on then to final public comment. Mr. Powers.
Just as a reminder, we have our joint session at 6 p.m. tonight, the Plan Commission and Village Council. Thank you.
That did not show up on my calendar.
Seriously?
My one
Yeah.
meeting a year.
We talked about last week.
I know, but I don't know why it did not show up.
Speaking of joint meetings, it's looking more and more like the joint meeting with the DDA and the barn is going to be best suited for Thursday, June 27th.
Be there.
You didn't reply.
I did.
You asked if it was going to be the barn.
Oh, true.
Anyway. We'll post it as such. I think so. Everybody good except for Mackenzie? 6 p.m.?
Good.
Okay.
I'll be in Ireland.
Maryland?
Ireland.
Oh, Ireland.
They have Zoom.
That's a better spot.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that's awesome.
Right, support. Yes.
All those in favor?
Unofficial.
Yes.
No vote necessary. All right. Any other public comment? Final council comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, just seeing that video, probably ought to think about having a little presentation of that with the veteran group. They seem to be the most public interested in what we were doing with that process.
I think that would be best suited as the next time the veterans group meets, maybe one of us could go that has access and just show them rather than, broadcast where all of our cameras are like we did today.
Well, that's not what I.
No, I know. But yes, they absolutely need to see that because they had concerns and it's nice that we were able to address those. Any other comments? Mackenzie?
Only that I really appreciate getting those cameras and you gentlemen setting them up. I mean, think of all the possibilities and the security our community can have if, someone hits a car or vandalizes property, they can always come and be known that there's video footage of that, and they can, Sergeant Ware has the tools to help deal with those situations.
Anything else?
Probably be in the paper. Can't imagine.
Ann?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Kevin? Steve?
Firm believer in giving our police department every tool that we can, so I think it looks great.
I will add that these cameras are not to track the general public. They're just for incidents. This is not Big Brother watching you. This is to protect the assets that we have invested in, the $400,000 pavilion. I don't know what we spent on the band shell, the, $40,000 restrooms, making sure that our taxpayer dollars aren't being additionally spent to maintain structures that were just installed. So protecting their investment. With that being said, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support. We have a motion with support to adjourn. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ah.
I'm just gonna give you my vote from now on. You can have it. For adjourning.
Yeah, I could go for a refresher.